Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. And we are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We've got ourselves a treat today.
Yes, we do.
Trevor Maddich was on with Jared yesterday, as he does every Tuesday
I gotta
at
hear
4:30.
what Trevor said, too.
So we know last week Trevor said he would have cut Traylon Burks for his effort. And Trevor kind of followed up those comments yesterday on Jared's show, and he said, I will debate this, I will discuss this with any coach, with any general manager, with any former player. And I thought, oh, will you now?
Isn't that what I said?
You happen to have a former player.
Isn't that what I said?
And you said, I'll debate this with anybody. So Trevor Maddich will join the show in 1 hour. We will discuss what he had to say about Traylon Burks, what he saw at practice, your perspective as a wide receiver, D-Mase. So Trevor Maddich will join us in 1 hour. Tim Hasselbeck will join us at 1 p.m. But Willy D. D-Mase.
Got a lineup today, don't we?
Seriously, we got a who's who.
A who's who of I'm looking forward to having Trevor on as well. Obviously, Tim comes on every week, but we don't, take that for granted. So we're happy to have Tim on. He couldn't go yesterday, so. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting show, and yesterday in sports there was not much. I watched a 30 for 30 on Reynolds. What's the track? You remember that, Willy, 1988? When Reynolds broke the 400 meter run. He ran a 43-1. But then that's when they started testing. That's when they really ramped up testing in the Olympics in like 1988, because that's when Ben Johnson got popped.
I've seen that 30. That's really
and
compelling.
Reynolds said he didn't, and that's what this whole 30-30 is about. The title is false positive.
Now that one I have not heard.
It's a really good one. He was at the time he was the world's fastest man. He had broke the records. God, I forgot who said it before him, but the record was a 43.2 or 0.3, and he broke it at 43.1, somewhere around there, 43.29. And then he raced for a while. Then subsequently, like a year or two later, he tested positive, and they stripped everything. And it was a good story. So
I'll tell you, it is, as the years go by and you go back, track and field and cycling, the things you find out years later.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to in the moment, like in the 1980s, you just didn't think about those things, really. I mean, steroids were, you heard about with weightlifters and stuff like that, and maybe some football players, and you find out, definitely in those. But the sprinting and the cycling, until Ben Johnson, I didn't really think about that at all. But it was going on. As you find out, there's a lot of
it was Butch Reynolds.
chemistry.
Butch Reynolds, yes.
A lot of chemistry.
A lot of science experiments.
Yeah, it was good.
And then the Russians. You ever seen the one Icarus?
Icarus is great.
Unreal.
Yes, but they show see what they did was they sort of told like the story briefly, very briefly, of during the war where Russia and Germany were feeding their troops and what is it? Amphetamines and steroids to keep them up and to keep them going and going. And what they did was, after the war and some years later, they took what those scientists had and just implemented into the sport, Russia and Germany, and they were dominating for a period.
Oh, yes.
Like men and women, they were dominating for a period. And it wasn't until they started implementing the global drug test for the Olympics, and then a lot of those people started to get busted left and right. So it's a good story. It's a really good story. I don't know if Butch Reynolds took steroids. He said he didn't. But, they stripped him of his gold medal. They stripped him of the world record time. So he went from the top of the world to the penthouse to the outhouse very, very quickly.
Appropriate now, too, because we're only, a month and a half away from the Olympics.
Yeah.
And there was the whole Russian doping scandal that they were disqualified
Icarus
from the
was in there.
Olympics.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That was It's unbelievable to hear the story.
Crazy.
It's like machine. They'll build a machine basically with those people.
It is absolutely insane. I have to watch that one.
I don't
It's
know
pretty
how
good. It's really good.
the ongoing race between testing and the new science that always is coming out with the next thing to try to give you the edge. It's a ongoing battle.
Yeah.
It's always going to be
One always
try
is
to
ahead of
create
the
the
other.
level playing field. You can't say we're so far past you can't do anything other than eat meat and potatoes and take vitamins. Like everybody is pushing it.
Pushing
So
the
we
limits.
have to try to come to some agreement of what's the level playing field and still find a way to nail cheaters.
Exactly.
Right? We just
Yeah.
have to agree. What are the rules? We don't want the X-Men out there, the mutants. Right? Let's have real
Hey,
people.
they had
Yeah.
some of them. They had some of them back in the day.
Sometimes
And
they're
that
all
was-
hooked up to all those
yes.
machines with
Yeah.
their vitals getting taken. They look like Frankenstein-esque
Yeah.
kind of experiments.
And that was the biggest. That was the big thing with Butch Reynolds. He said it wasn't done proper. A lot of that stuff wasn't done properly. Some stuff was tainted because when they first started, it wasn't. It was just they were making up rules as they went, and you don't know how secure those testing houses were. That's what his side is saying. So it's an interesting. It's a nice 30 for 30.
It isn't it always at the center of the debate? Because I'll guarantee you, in the coming weeks or months, there'll be the next person that tests positive. I just didn't know what I put in my body. I just didn't know. I went down to the mall, GNC,
and I got me a
I
smoothie.
got a supplement.
Gee, I went to Jamba Juice and got a little something extra in my smoothie. I didn't know it was going to show up. Like, save it.
I apologize. I'd never do this intentionally.
Well, you may
But they're
not
probably-
have done it intentionally,
Right.
but it was
You
in your
did it.
system. Yeah.
But there's always the one guy that actually maybe did
Yeah, they
mistakenly
did,
do
exactly,
something or
yeah.
did have a false positive, and everybody's like, yeah, sure, buddy. I mean, those
I'm
people
telling
are
you,
screwed.
I-
Those people are screwed. The innocent person who has the false positive, that guy's screwed.
Oh yeah, because they
Because
figure
everybody else is like,
dope.
oh, that's
Yeah.
everybody's line.
But I had, and I think I told this story before, and I don't mean to commandeer the first 25, 30 minutes, but let me say this quickly since we're on that. I remember I was in Baltimore, and this was what, 07? Might have been 07, 06, somewhere around there. And we're in the off season. We're in OTAs and stuff. So I go in, I go to my locker, and I had this FedEx package. And I'm like, what? Like, what I get fined for? We ain't even in the season. What, do I got to take a drug test? Like, because they randomly test you, and, you peeved about it as players. But it's like, okay, I just got this letter, and I just went to the bathroom. Now I got to wait another 35, 45
that's
minutes
the
and
worst.
drink a bunch of water.
Gatorade.
The
Exactly.
worst.
But then I can't drink so much because then they say it was diluted. So you gotta play it just perfectly right in order to get another sample. So I get it and I open it and I'm reading it and it's like foreign to me for a second. I'm like, what? Yeah, you test positive. I'm like, what? Test positive for what? It was what I did test positive for because I had a root canal. And I took the medicine they give you.
Novocaine or something.
Yeah,
Something like that.
Some
Like a painkiller.
painkillers, yeah. And it showed up in my urine. And I'm like, you guys to be kidding. So the first thing I did was go to the trainers. Like, what do I do here? And they were like, just give it to us. We'll take care of it. Because they had a record of me going to the dentist and everything else. So I gave it to them. They took care of it. I was like, whew, man. Goodness
God,
gracious.
that
Yes, it is. I'm like, man, they trying to suspend me and take my money? And I'm going to be on the list where I can get tested anytime? No, I don't
Can
want
you
that.
imagine at the press conference? I just went to the dentist.
Exactly. I got a root
This is the
canal.
dentist. You bring the dentist. This is my dentist.
I just had a poppy seed muffin, okay?
Oh, my
And not on
goodness.
opiates. I had a poppy
Yeah,
seed
but that
muffin.
is a scary feeling, boy. When you get that letter, whew,
That is scary. That is awfully scary.
Yeah, so.
Well, let's get into it because yesterday wrapped up the off-season portion of this Titan season. The next time they're back out on the practice field will be training camp, and that officially starts preseason. A lot of the things that we've been talking about of, I'll worry about that in training camp, we'll worry about that in training camp, that's going to come to fruition here in about a month and a half. So now that we have wrapped up the official preseason, OTAs, mandatory minicamp, so on and so forth, kind of came up with a list of some things that we've been talking about, maybe things that we haven't been talking about enough, but are absolutely going to be a factor or could be a factor in training camp and as we get throughout the rest of the season. So I wanted to go through this list. And if I forgot something, Willie, Derek, Nick, let me know and we'll discuss it. We'll throw it on the list. Kind of categorizing these certain things into things that we're encouraged about, things that we've really liked, things that we're excited about, we're excited to see in training camp, excited to see come to fruition in the preseason and the regular season, things that are a little bit of a concern, but it's more of a we'll wait until training camp kind of thing. Like it's, we'll think about it. We've been talking about it, but it's really not going to be a concern until it becomes an issue in training camp. And then the third kind of category of, yeah, that's a problem. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about it now. I'll be concerned about it in training camp. Or even things that we won't even be worried about until the regular season. Maybe we won't see it come to fruition in training camp, but we want to see it more kind of unfold in the regular season. So we'll start at the top. Are we good with the categories, kind of what boxes we're putting these things in?
Yep.
Cool. Let's start with a juicy one. T'Vondre Sweat.
Am I concerned about him?
Is it a concern now, a concern in training camp, a concern regular season, or encouraged?
I'm not concerned now. That's now. Again, and I've been, I've went over why I'm not concerned when it comes to Sweat. Now, if we get into camp and this continues to be the theme, then yeah, we need to, have a conversation about, him potentially not, reaching his maximum potential because of his weight. But right now, they're trying to get him. I'm sure they got him in a workout program. Coach Callahan said he was working. He may not be working in front of us, but he's working in the weight room. He's working in the training room. So I'm sure they're trying to. They got 4 weeks here, 4 or 5 weeks, to get Sweat on a program where he can pass the test, because that's what everybody's going to be looking for now. Moving. The next thing is he going to take the test, and is he going to pass the test? I warn people. If he doesn't pass it the first time, don't get alarmed. Please don't. Don't.
What does that test look like?
That test is hard. I mean, even when you're in condition, it's hard to run. And I could just imagine.
Is it like a cardio test?
Yeah, it's a cardio test. It's like they do 150s, and I forgot how many we do, 5, 10. But it's like every group have a specific time, and you only get a certain amount of time to rest, and you got to be back on the line and go again. So that test for all these people that if he doesn't pass
rest in between,
exactly for all these people that if he doesn't pass the test for the first time, your ass go out and run that test. I don't care. Get in condition. I'll give you 4 months to get in the best condition you can get in, and then try running that test. That test ain't no joke, I'm telling you. So if he doesn't pass it the first time, don't be alarmed. Now, if he get to a situation where he can't pass it the second time, then yeah. Because you should be able to pass it after the first time, to me. So if it continues into camp, I have a problem then. Right now, I don't, because now he has 3 weeks, close to a month, to get himself in condition to run that test and to be able to practice once 2 days come. So right now, I'm not too concerned.
That's interesting. I've seen similar tests. Mm-hmm. I had them as an athlete. I've seen a lot of athletes.
We used to do the mile test in college, and that was hard.
My high school baseball coach, baseball is not a aerobic sport, but he made everybody be able to run a mile and a half in I think it was 10 minutes and 10 seconds. And there's some guys who were pretty good baseball players that struggled to do that, and they had to work to do, which is what he wanted you to do.
Exactly.
But the anxiety
of taking
it. There are people like, I just want to play baseball, or I just want to play basketball. I'm a good basketball player, but they get so wound up and they get nervous and they don't do well on the test because they're just afraid. It's a thing. It's a thing. It's not easy for. And then the big guys, right? The 7-footers in basketball who have to run the mile or run the sprints, the suicides, or the big offensive linemen in football. It's different for them, right?
Yeah.
You don't run 150-yard runs in football very often if you're a big lineman.
No.
But it is part of condition and you and all of that. It's the test that you're pushing yourself. Look, you have to be concerned about Sweat. You just have to be. I will be concerned. I'm concerned now on some level. I'm not that concerned.
It's not the end all be all.
It's not the
right
end all.
now.
But I have to say, I'm watching close, and there's a question mark there, and I'll probably be concerned throughout training camp if he's missing time. I'm trying to be optimistic, but certainly there's some questions here with this guy. But there's a risk reward. Sometimes you make a pick like that. The reward is, I think, if he can get into shape, if they can get him there, then I think he's got a chance to do things that not a lot of people can do.
Yeah.
Right? That's why they drafted him.
I'm concerned about Sweat now because we were concerned about Sweat on draft night. And everything that's kind of transpired since then, just not being able to be out on the practice field, it kind of confirms our concern. Now, that's not to say that I have the right to change my mind in training camp. If he's out there and he looks great and he's able to consistently be on the field and he stays healthy and in the regular season he's available and impactful in every game, well, then who cares what he was doing in minicamp? And who cares that he wasn't able to be out there for OTAs? Because the games are really what matters. But we're not at training camp yet, and we're not in the regular season yet. So I will bite my tongue and I will swallow my words if he's able to be out there and impactful. But for right now, it is a concern because it was a concern in March. Mm-hmm. Will Levis's development. Be encouraged, concerned, won't be concerned until training camp, going to wait until the season. How are we feeling about Will Levis' development at this point on June 12th?
I'll say I'm not going to be concerned until training camp. I think everything I hear is okay, so I'm not going to be overly concerned. I just, in the big picture, I know how difficult it is to become a really good quarterback in this league, let alone a great quarterback, a, quote, franchise quarterback, because everybody has that tag thrown out there, but there's a lot of different, are you defining a franchise quarterback as somebody who wins Super Bowl? Like we're talking about a really small number of people, and there's a lot of quarterbacks out there. All that being said, his numbers were what they were. Mm-hmm. He flashes some good things. Let's see where he goes. So I am kind of like, let's see what happens in the season because I think he's doing the work. Mm-hmm. He hasn't given anybody reason to be concerned with, hey, did you see that Will Levis was seen at CMA Fest doing something crazy? Mm-hmm. Or, hey, Will Levis went, the vibe at practice, everybody's saying he's not working very hard, he's showing up late. He's done everything he can do to keep the concern level to nothing in the offseason. So I give him credit for that. So I'll be concerned in the regular season. Not worried about it until the regular season.
The fact that the most controversial thing that's come out about Will Levis, well, other than some things that got leaked, is the fact that he threw a ball in the lake. That's a positive thing. Yeah.
It skipped in the lake.
Yeah. It bounced into the lake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned at this point about his progression because we gotta understand it's a new offense, new players he's around. He's still essentially a rookie quarterback to me. So he's gonna have his ups and downs. It seems like in camp he's progressing the way that they want him to. They don't seem like they have any problems with him in camp. Mm-hmm. Obviously every day you want to go out and get better at something. But I'm not. My concern level isn't high at all. One reason is because they just don't have as much time as they used to in that building. So it's hard to sort of, get into a rhythm with your guys when you're not spending as much time with them, or it's hard to get into the rhythm of with your coaches and how they like to call things and how they like to explain things. You really don't, get the full scope of it unless you're in it consistently. And Will hasn't been in it consistently because you can only get so much time with the coaches. A lot of his time, since Callahan has got there, I'm sure he spent some time with them, but they can only spend so much going over the playbook per the collective bargaining agreement. So once we get into camp, 2-day camps, and the season starts, if there seems to be some type of setback or some type of stall in his play, then I may need to worry. But even then, it's like we got a whole season. You know, it's just
Yeah.
a whole season, and you're really not gonna know whether this guy is the guy yet until far into the season. So me being worried now, yeah, there are some things that he needs to improve on as a quarterback, yes. But as far as him taking a step back, he would have to come into camp looking awful for me to be concerned about his progression as a quarterback.
I think for me, I'm withholding any judgment, definitive judgment, or labeling Will Levis what he's going to be until the season. Because we're in OTAs in minicamp, and this is his fourth offense in 4 years. Callahan's learning him. Levis is learning Callahan. He's learning the new receivers. He's learning the new offense. Like right now, it's the time to experiment. Right now, it's the time to make mistakes and learn from them. So I'm withholding any and all judgment until the season. And it's not going to be week 1, and it's not going to be week 2. There are going to be weeks that I think Will Levis looks like a freaking superstar. There are going to be weeks where Will Levis might not look very good. But at the end of the season, it's how much more of good Levis did you see versus bad Levis, or vice versa? So I think waiting until the season is totally fair. But that's not to say that during training camp, we can't go out there and say today was a good day for Levis, or today was a bad day for Levis, or Levis is coming along.
Whether you like it or not, that's going to happen.
It's going to happen. But I don't think it would be fair to say that Will Levis is a bust after day 2 of training camp, because it's you got to give him time.
Yeah.
You got to give him time. I've got a long list of some other things that we can evaluate at this point in the season. First-time play callers, encouraged, concerned. Legarius needs knees. Concerned? Are we concerned now? Will we be concerned later? We'll get into that, kind of our end of the off-season program evaluation of where the Titans stand now. We'll continue the conversation coming up next. Trevor Maddich at the top of the hour will be discussing special offer only for a limited time. So listen up. Use the promo code GAME, GAME, for a 20% discount right now through June 16th.
What's going on, everyone? It's Wednesday. I hope you're enjoying it as we speak, as I'm talking to you. But listen, I need to tell you something. I need to tell you right now about my friends over at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his staff. And I've been talking about them for some time. And if you have set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution to shed some extra pounds, only to face disappointment. We all have been through it, so you're not in this boat alone. But here's the solution, people. At Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Here's the solution. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and no one else. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. I'm going to reiterate that. Personalized weight loss plan just for you, people. So Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We are brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. Yesterday at OTAs wrapped up the Titans' official offseason program, so they'll be going off and doing, whatever they do until training camp in mid to late July.
Whatever players do.
Yeah. What did you do?
Did you go to the beach or something? Did you guys do a vacation, or did you stop working out for a little bit? Or
Well, we would go on vacation, but we usually took it like during the spring break month. Because we had that little time off during that spring break month. So when the kids were out, we would go for a week or whatnot on vacation and come back. And then in the summer, we would go after that last camp. We would go on vacation for like a week. And then either be back for the 4th of July or right after the 4th of July.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay, I feel like that's probably the norm. Go out, go to the beach, go do something.
Yeah, just get away.
Unless
for a
you
quick
need
minute.
to be here rehabbing, working out,
Exactly.
or whatever. So we're kind of giving our post-off-season, pre-training camp temperature of several things that can be, probably will be, big impacts and big indicators for how good or not so good the Titans are going to be this upcoming season. We touched on T'Vondre Sweat and Will Levis. Willie and I are concerned now about T'Vondre Sweat. D-Mase is holding off until camp. I think all of us are holding off until the regular season to give a full, evaluation of Will Levis. That a couple of days in OTAs and minicamp is not enough to say Will Levis with a new head coach and a new play caller and a new offense with new pass catchers is X, Y, and Z. It's not fair quite yet. So what about Denard Wilson as a first-time DC? Encouraged? Concerned? Going to wait until the season to evaluate? How are we feeling about Denard Wilson as a first-time defensive coordinator?
I feel good about him. And listen, I'm going to be honest. Maybe I'm biased because he comes from Baltimore. And, I have the utmost respect for that organization and the coaches that have sort of filtered through. I know what John Harbaugh is about when it comes to playing ball. So I know that Coach Wilson is detailed to the nth degree, and he's aggressive in what he want to do, but not just recklessly aggressive. He's aggressive, but do it in a smart, calculated way. So I'm encouraged, with what he can potentially do with this defense. We haven't had a shortage of good defensive coordinators with this organization.
Yeah.
You can go back to when I was playing. After that, even now with Coach Wilson, and even before that, the defense was never truly a big problem. Now they had their injuries on the defensive side of the ball, but when they were healthy, whether it's Shane Boyne or any other defensive coordinator that's come through here, they've managed to put a competitive defensive front or competitive defensive team on the field. And it's no different, I believe, with Coach Wilson. So I'm not concerned right now. Now, again, you get in the season, that's when you really start to see things, when everything starts flying live, then you get to see, is what he's teaching resonating with these players, and does he have the right players for the scheme that he want to play?
I cannot say that I know enough to be able to be concerned or encouraged until the regular season, so I have to elect that option. I'm going to wait and see in the regular season. I completely agree with D-Mase. His pedigree is excellent, everything I'm hearing. There's no reason to be discouraged or concerned based on what we've heard till now. But I just don't think you can get a read on a very difficult job coming in, being a first-time coordinator with all of the new pieces that he's got. It's not like he's coming in and the same defense is being handed down to him. They got a lot of new players. They might even add a player or two between now and the start of training camp that they'll have to acclimate into. So this is a tough assignment. So I am going to defer until the regular season.
Fair.
Yeah, because again, Greg Williams, Schwartz, who else was been Shane Boyne. There was maybe one or two.
Well,
other
who's
guys.
the guy from New England that was there forever that came out of retirement?
Why am I forgetting?
Dean Pease.
Yeah, Dean
Pease.
Pease. Dean
Yeah,
Pease
I mean,
is at
pretty-
the top
pretty
of the
good
list.
coordinator.
So
Yeah.
they've had some really good coordinators come through this organization, and I think Coach Denard Wilson goes right along that line. So, like Willie said, I'm not concerned. Now we get into the season, then it may be a different story. But right now, I'm not concerned at all.
I'm encouraged. Like everything that I've heard from Denard Wilson and any of his media availabilities at the podium, on podcasts, whatever. He's so fun to listen to. And TD was on with us earlier this week, kind of giving us a recap of what he'd seen in practices so far. And he was talking about how it already looks like, and obviously it's OTAs and minicamp, take it with a grain of salt, but he can already see the defense playing with a certain level of aggression, which is what Denard Wilson said in his introductory press conference. That's what he wants his defense to be, flying around everywhere, fast, aggressive, in the offense's face. So I'm encouraged. Now, again, in the regular season, if the Titans defense is giving up 35 points a game, I'll change my mind. I will absolutely change my mind. But for now, I'm encouraged about Denard Wilson, as encouraged as you can be about a first-time coordinator on June 12th. What about Nicholas Petit-Frere? And really, let's just say the right tackle position as a whole. What's our temperature on that? Really the right side of the line.
Now that
Anything
one,
right of Lloyd Cushenberry.
I think I'm going to talk about relativity here because, the bar is low.
Yeah.
Right? We're coming from disaster kind of level.
Yeah.
And so, look, if you're sitting here saying you're encouraged, like you would only be saying that because you're in kind of that mode of it can't be any worse.
It's everything's going to be fine season.
But we know it can get worse. We
Yeah.
said that before. And lo and behold, here's Andre Dillard.
That's a line from somewhere in the Star Wars. I think it's Empire Strikes Back. Could be worse. It's worse. Remember, that's something you start hearing the machines going, oh, it's worse. Han Solo, I think, said it.
It's worse.
Yeah. Look, I do think it will be better. I am in that mode. How much better is going to be the key. And really, my expectation levels just give me league average on that side of the line. And then, look, the bar is set higher on the left side of the line where you've put a pretty heavy investment, right? If you include the center, throw the center in on either side. But, I mean, the center is a very key person here.
Totally.
Right? They put some money down to give themselves a chance there. That's a big one. And then the investments with the other two guys with your first-round pick, you got to hope that you're seeing, overnight, do we think Latham is going to be a first-day All-Pro? No, I think there's going to be some growth there that you have to see from him, but I want to start seeing that. The right side is, okay, let's just find a way. Let's get some duct tape out here. Let's get some barbed wire out here. Let's just put together.
Bubble gum.
Let's go around the yard and pick up whatever we can find that might go in here and just give me something that I can deal with here. So it's a hard. So relative, that's what I will say. I mean, but the general is concerned. I mean, you got to be concerned. But relatively speaking, just my expectation isn't that high. Just give me something I can work with here.
Yeah.
When there's when you have a position and there's like two first names, not one guy with two first names, but there's like two first names, or there's one name and then a slash and then another name. Yeah, you should be concerned.
That's scary.
Yeah, that's scary because it's like there's this unknown. Like, which one of y'all guys are gonna take it? Like, neither one of y'all are good enough to sort of step out.
We have to put a body out here.
Exactly.
It's got to be one of you guys.
This guy is going to be our starter. No, you had to put both names, and you had to put a slash in the middle.
Yeah.
Like, every day is going to be somebody different. And that ain't cool. I mean, so I am concerned about the right side because it's not like you have two guys fighting for a position that have proven, like, without a doubt that they can play. Like, and we're just trying to figure out which guy are we going to play because they're both so good. No, they have two guys, and maybe even more than that are okay at best right now. I'm not saying they can't get better, but right now they're okay at best. You can't operate with okay at best, at that position. You can't. You have to have someone that solidifies that position for you, that right tackle position or right guard position. You got to have a guy that when you come into camp, you want to know for sure at certain positions. All right, here's my guy here. Here's my guy here. Okay, that position, yeah, working it out a little bit, but, we have time to work that out. You don't have time really to work that offensive line out. You got to know which guys you're going to have at that position, because the quicker you know or the faster you know, the better they're going to be. If you're steady going back and forth every other day switching guys, they're not building any chemistry together.
Yeah.
It's always a different guy on that right side. That right side has to build chemistry just like the left side does. So the quicker you can find your starter for that position out there, you have a problem. Mm-hmm. You have a serious problem. So I am concerned about that. But hopefully that, Bill Callahan can work his magic, and, during camp, we will start to see that guy, whoever it is, take a step forward. And once he takes that step forward, we'll know which guy is going to be the starter.
If you're not concerned about the right side of the line, I want what you're having. That would show up in your training camp drug test. I don't know how you couldn't be concerned. Right now, Dylan Radins and Sadiq Charles are battling it out at right guard. I don't know if either of them can play that position, and to what extent they can play that position, because I know once the Titans brought in Bill Callahan, we all kind of breathed a collective sigh of relief of this guy is going to be able to get every single offensive lineman to their ceiling. The question is, what's the ceiling? Because if the ceiling's still low, it doesn't matter if you can. It's
kind of like going
into
the crawl space a little bit. You duck down. The ceiling's pretty low.
It only goes.
I have a question too with your depth chart reference, D-Mase, because I think that's a good one, because you got a problem when you have a lot of slashes. On top of that, you got a guy with a hyphenated name in there.
Yeah,
you got right. Petit Frere and a slash and 3 other names. Is there enough room on the when you go into the GM's office and he's got the depth chart on there? They may have to extend it out to the right a little bit more to get all the names in there.
Extend the margins where the font size is 7.
And on your computer screen, it's going to mess up all your columns. There's just too many, not enough spaces.
You're done for there.
Yeah, that's messed up.
And that was just right guard. Not to mention, Nicholas Petit-Frere hasn't even been out on the practice field. So the guy who I think we view as the leader in the clubhouse, if you think differently, let me know. But the leader in the clubhouse to play that right tackle position, he hasn't even been on the field. So absolutely, it's a concern. Mm-hmm. Last one before we touch on some stuff with Trevor Maddich. L'Jarius needs knees. For that one, for me, I'm going to wait till the season. Because we talked about this whenever the Titans traded for L'Jarius Sneed, that he didn't even practice with the Chiefs, which was a concern, but he played, 16 games? So if L'Jarius Sneed can play 16, 17 games for the Titans and play at a high level, I don't care if he's not practicing. The difference with L'Jarius Sneed to me versus Tavondre Sweat, I almost said Tre'Davious White for some reason, versus Tavondre Sweat is L'Jarius Sneed's been through this before and he's proven he can be available when it matters. Tavondre Sweat hasn't yet. So I'm going to wait until the season. But it's not nothing now.
I'm not too concerned at this moment. It's going to be load management with him during the week. And I'm not going to sit here and say he doesn't need to practice. But, if he isn't practicing as much, he's already shown that without much practice, he can still go out there and be one of the top corners in the National Football League.
Yeah.
If you're able to play on Sundays, that's all anybody care about. They're not monitoring whether you're practicing every day of the week. Steve Nair was on an injury report every single day, probably, of his NFL career.
I think that's probably right.
Other than maybe his first year. But we didn't care if Steve, because we knew, listen, this dude, if he can get a day of practice, 2 days, that's great. But Steve didn't need necessarily that. Once he got out there and those lights came on, he was good. Now, with practice, could he have been better? Absolutely. We know that. But him missing practice wasn't a big thing for us because we knew he was going to show up in the game. And I think that's the same way with L'Jarius Sneed. Missing practice isn't a huge deal unless the knee starts to flare up in the midst of all of this. As long as he show up on Sundays and is able to play at a high level, if it starts affecting him playing at a high level, even though he's still playing, we got a problem. Because even if you're still playing, but you're not playing to the level that you once were, we got a problem. Because if it seems that your knees are the reason why, then yeah.
It's hard to say this because, I mean, look, the health player of any NFL
Yeah.
player is, at some point as you get older, it gets harder to stay healthy. I'm not as concerned with the knees as I am him having the spotlight now of big name guy that you traded for, handed the big contract to, not living up to the expectation. I just think that is a big thing in sports, and it's not his fault. He earned that contract, but now there's a different level of expectation. There is a different focus of a broadcast, of a team, of a fan, of what they expect from that player. And look, I'll give you one that's going on right now in the NHL Stanley Cup Final. Darnell Nurse, he makes $9.5 million a year. He's getting absolutely flamed every day by the fans because, like, how do we pay this guy's 9.5? Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson, just give it a little more local flavor. But those guys with the big contracts, who it's not their fault they got offered those contracts, but they're the ones that take the heat if it's not going well for them or the team. That's what I worry about with Snead.
The expectation.
That's what I worry about with Snead. And I don't, I think he's going to be good. He's the same guy, but there's going to be a lot expected of him. That's my concern with him.
Fair. Coming up next, Trevor Maddich will join us at noon in 15 minutes. We know last week Trevor Maddich went on Jared's show. He said he would have cut Treylon Burks for his effort. Tyke Tolbert responded to that, of course, the Titans wide receivers coach. Trevor Maddich then responded to what Tyke Tolbert had to say. I want to get D-Mase's reaction before we catch up with Trevor Maddich at noon. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Tomorrow, the Robbie and Rex Road Show will be broadcasting live for the grand opening of a new Dunkin' location in Nashville at 326 Harding Place. 102.5 The Game will be on site from 6 to 9 a.m., so stop by and have your chance to win lots of great prizes.
Let's talk about Zen Sports, people, the new sports book in Tennessee that is bringing sports betting to a whole new level, and I mean that literally, okay? When you sign up for a Zen Sports account, you'll automatically earn up to $1,000, no danger first wager. If your first bet loses, check this out, you'll be reimbursed for the amount of your bet up to $1,000. Plus, Zen Sports offers true odds on all parlays and boosted same game parlays for all Tennessee sports teams. That means boosted up to 20% over other books in Tennessee. And there's even more good news, people. Zen Sports offers a one-of-a-kind VIP reward program. If you qualify, you'll earn monthly comps at sporting events, concerts, which we have many of. You name it, even sport book bonuses. The VIP program is by invite only. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for the VIP consideration, check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. So what are you waiting for, people? The daily same game parlays go quick. So get going and download their app at zensports.com today. That's Zen Sports, where betting just got better. And remember, gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
Attitudes, great. Effort's been good. One of the things that somebody said something about his effort and practice the other day. The one thing I would mention that a lot of those guys come straight from special teams and they're running like 100 yards up and down the field. And when they get to my period, my individual period, we have only 8 minutes. So what I tell them to do is they can tone it down a little bit, go through the route technique part of it, not so much speed, because after 8 minutes, we go back full speed with the routes on there with the quarterbacks. So some of that, I give him a little leeway because especially like on the kickoff team or punt team as a gunner, he's taking more reps, probably twice as many reps as rookies are. So I'm trying to give him a little bit of a break when it gets to my particular area. As far as running full speed technique, I won't waver on that. But as far as going full speed in my drills, I don't have them do that on some days when they're doing a lot of running on special teams.
So some of that was seen was, in fact, based off, hey, look, man, tone it down.
Yeah, I tell them all. They say, what's the speed? I say, I will go half speed this time. I say, what's the speed? I say, 3/4. Now, sometimes we go full speed, but they always ask, what's the speed? And I tell them when they come from over there, I see they're running gunners, and I'm seeing they're running kickoff coverage, and some guys getting twice as many reps as some other guys. So just to give them like a little break when they get to my particular drill, I tell them the technique won't suffer, but just tone it down a little bit because you just come back from running all those, I don't know how many yards they run, but it's a lot over there in special teams. And then we're getting ready to run full speed again with the routes on air with the quarterback. So just in my period, sometimes I tell them to tone it down, half speed, 3/4 speed, that kind of thing.
That was Titans wide receiver coach Tyke Tolbert. Obviously, Trevor Matich's comments that he made on Jared's show last week got back to the building because Tyke Tolbert said, I heard somebody questioning Traylon Burks' effort. Kind of explained, I tell him go half speed, I tell him go not 100%. So Jared played that for Trevor yesterday, and Trevor will join us in less than 10 minutes. So Trevor and D-Mase can have their
powwow.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay, can we
discussion.
say this though? That what did Derek say before he talked to Coach wide receiver right there, Coach Tolbert? What did D-Mase say the day after? That this is what happens sometimes. Okay, so just
yeah. I mean,
I'm not going to have D-Mase have to pat himself on the back. I'm going to pat him on the back because he told you what's going on. So don't freak out when you hear somebody make a real noisy take that is over-exaggerated.
Yeah, listen.
And out of context.
Y'all are going to start listening to me. Not y'all two. Not y'all. I'm not talking to y'all two. Or you, Nick. But y'all are going to truly start listening to me. Just because I don't get what I tell you is what I've experienced. If you don't think my experience in the NFL 15 years is worth anything, then okay, say that. But when I say things, I'm telling you because I've experienced those things. I never say anything that's out of bounds. Like, I'm not going to say something that I haven't experienced in the NFL myself especially at that position. I'm not going to just to be given a hot take because I understand. I know what it takes to play that position. I understand from a coach's standpoint what they want. Now, things have changed some. How you approach these young men now compared to when I was playing. But the premise of it is still the same. What these coaches are asking you to do in certain drills are still the same no matter what. If they were playing in 1950 or they're playing in 2024, the premise of the drill is the same. Like what we're asking you to do, if I tell you to tone it down, you tone it down. If I tell you to speed it up, you speed it up. That's a coach's preference. I said what I said last week because I understood. And to make it even more, even when before I became a full-time starter, I had to do punt return while the other receivers are, stretching and doing all this. The more veteran guys that have proven, that was here, whether it be Yancey, Carl Pickens, Chris to an extent, those guys were doing like receiver stuff, like warming up a little bit, while we were gunners, whether it was myself, Joey Kent, Isaac Bird, gunners, punt return, kickoff coverage. We were running up and down the field while everybody else is just on the side kind of warming their bodies up slowly. And then all of a sudden the coaches say, all right, individuals, and we got to go to our coaches. I'm tired. There's about 3 other guys that are tired. The other guys that have been just, warming up, they're not tired. So what the coach would say is, all right, fellas, half speed. Y'all half speed. I know y'all been running up and down. Y'all half speed, 3/4 speed. I'm not worried about it. And when you get your breath, then we can go full speed. And usually we would take that whole period, 2 or 3 minutes where everybody is like, okay, now I caught my breath. Now we're getting into what we need to get into. So when I saw that, again, I'm like, it was irresponsible to me, I said, and also only to me, to say that not knowing the context or what the coach is trying to get out of that drill. If Trevor was some guy that just had a podcast that nobody listened to, or they probably had like 100, 200, it's like, okay, yeah, what you say, nobody's really paying attention to it. I guess you're trying to get some clicks, or you're trying to get people to listen. But when Trevor says it, because he's respected in this industry, that holds a lot of weight. That's all I was saying.
That is one thing that I would like to reiterate is Trevor Maddich isn't just some guy that went out to practice and is just saying things. Trevor Maddich played in this league. He played the sport. He has been one of ESPN's most respected and top college football analysts for a long time. Trevor isn't just pulling this out of nowhere. This isn't just, a quote-unquote lazy take that Trevor Maddich had. This isn't Trevor trying to get clicks or get headlines. That's not what Trevor Maddich is about. So that's another thing I want to reiterate. It's not just somebody saying something. That we here on this program and all of our listeners respect your experience and perspective and respect Trevor's experience and perspective. So he will join us coming up next. He said on Jared's show yesterday, I'll debate this. I'll talk about this with any coach, any GM, any former player. And I thought, perfect.
Hey.
Because we've got a former player that would love it to discuss. So Trevor Maddich, ESPN, a college football and NFL analyst, will join us coming up next. We'll get Trevor's perspective, what he saw from Treylon Burks. Derek's perspective on your experience as a wide receiver, what you've seen from Treylon Burks. Trevor Maddich will join us coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game and the Game Nashville app. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Normally, Jonathan Hutton, Hot Mike with Hutton Withrow, joins us at noon on Wednesdays. He will join us at noon tomorrow because we had to get Trevor Maddich on the program today. We heard Tyke Tolbert, Titans wide receivers coach, say, hey, I heard somebody questioning Traylon Burks' effort. And Tyke Tolbert explained, hey, they were going 50% speed. They weren't going, full effort. I told them not to go full effort. Trevor Maddich joined Jared Stillman's show yesterday and responded to what he heard from Tyke Tolbert. This was Trevor Maddich.
What a coach says about a player in public and what he says to a player behind closed doors are often different, and the coach often has different reasons for that. And so I am in no way being critical of the coach. I wasn't talking about his physical effort on full speed reps. I talked to you, Jared, repeatedly about you don't always go full speed physically, but you must always be at full focus mentally. They drafted, the Titans did, a rookie, Jaquan Jackson, right?
From Tulane, yep.
He did, yeah, and I watched him in that same practice be incredibly deliberate in watching with his eyes the ball hit his hands and then watch with his eyes as he tucked it away to secure it. I wasn't talking about his physical effort. I was talking about his mental focus as was manifest by his physical actions going through these drills. And so that's what I was upset about. I absolutely stand by it. I'm happy to talk to the assistant coach, head coach, player, former player. I'm happy to talk about that because I have seen way too many players that practice in such a way that they guarantee they will not be able to get the most out of their ability.
And that was Trevor Maddich on Jared's show yesterday. Trevor says, I'll debate any coach, GM, former player on this. Well, luckily enough, we have a former player of our own, and joining the program now is Trevor Maddich, ESPN college football and NFL analyst. Trevor, appreciate for joining us on the show today. Always appreciate your takes and insight on Jared's show every single Tuesday. I want to open up the floor to you before we send it to D-Mase for you to discuss. If you wouldn't mind just breaking down what you saw from Traylon Burks and what led you to believe that he wasn't giving his full effort, and where you stand now with Burks after we heard from Tyke Tolbert, Titans wide receivers coach.
Okay, well, let's start with that. By the way, it's great to be on. I appreciate you guys giving me a chance to come on and talk about this.
Absolutely.
I do stand by everything that I said. And I respect Coach Tolbert. And I don't think he sits around listening to people on the radio. Somebody told them or told him what they thought I said, and he responded to that. The response that I heard in the clips that were played were that he wasn't going 100% in certain drills physically because he had already gone 100% in special teams drills in the drills prior to that particular section of practice. And he was told that he should choke it down a little bit so that he could pick up the speed again in the next drills. And that's normal. You've got walk-through speed, jog-through, half speed, three-quarter speed, full speed, and different guys will go at different speeds depending on different needs over the course of a practice. That is normal. But it sounded like Coach Tolbert was responding to what he was told was a criticism of Traylon Burks' physical effort. It was not that. I took great care to say that this is not about physical effort, that it was about mental focus through those drills. And I said that in the drills that are not full speed, it's even more important to maintain full speed physical focus in what you're doing, because otherwise you practice losing focus. Otherwise you practice failure. And I looked at all those other receivers, and most of them were performing, whether they were rookies or whether they were seasoned veterans, they were performing mentally the way you should in practice, even if you're going through at lower speed. And I did not see that with Traylon Burks too often. And after a while, it just made me very annoyed because those other players, he owes to the other players. They deserve that every single teammate practices the best he possibly can, not the fastest he possibly can, the best he possibly can. Because that's how you keep a job, man. You win football games, and they tend to keep the team together. And when I see a guy do something like I saw Traylon Burks in that snapshot that day, and I talked about it with Jarrett as a snapshot, in that day, I looked at it as a player thinking, you know what? That guy can help us win. And practicing like that, he's not going to get anywhere near as good as he could possibly be, especially when you've got a first-round draft choice who in his first couple of years has not performed to expectation for a variety of reasons, injuries, etc. But either way, this is a big prove-it year for him. The team brought in 2 veteran free agent receivers, not to mention DeAndre Hopkins, and that bounced Burks down to number 4, and he was told he's got to play special teams now. And I'm watching that kind of mental focus to finish drills. And I tell you what, I was not happy about it. But here's the thing. I'm hearing a lot of conversation about how the coach said that the effort is good, that he doesn't always run full speed. Sometimes it's 75%. Sometimes it's less, depending on what the drill is. And people saying that, well, Trevor's take is wrong because he didn't know that the coach told him to not run as fast in that drill. Here's the problem. That's not what I said. I was talking about mental focus, especially when the drills are less than full speed, even a walkthrough. That's what I was talking about. And so I think it's, to use a word that I heard thrown around, I think it's highly irresponsible to slam me and my take based on something that I did not say. And I yield the floor back with a smile.
Well, thank you, and I will take over for now. And thank you for coming on too, Trevor. We appreciate it. Again, let's start with the irresponsible, because I said that. I thought my take was, because we respect what you say just about more than anybody that comes on this air when we're talking football. To me, it was irresponsible to say that, not knowing at that moment what the context of the drill was. I was alluding to that. Like, if you know what the context of the drill is, like me going out there to practice, if I don't know what they're trying to accomplish, if I see something that I don't think is full speed or whatnot, then I may say something on the air, or I may say something to somebody else that's sitting right there if I don't know the context of the actual drill. But typically in these situations, especially when, a guy has been playing special teams, and you know this, Trevor, a guy has been playing special teams, he's running, kickoff return, punt return, being a gunner. Those guys are up and down the field, all while the other guys are solely slow-mowing it into practice. They're warming up, they're stretching, and then once we get into the drill, usually that first drill or that second drill that they do, usually it's half speed, quarter speed, three-quarter, whatever the coach. Why? Because he understands that those guys are now coming from special teams and they're tired. So he want to make sure physically they get the drill in, whatever they need to get in, they get in and they work it. But he doesn't want them to go fast. Now, I can't, as somebody watching, I can't determine what his mental focus is. I can't. I just can't do it. I'm going by his body. And if I know what the drill entails, then I'm not going to think too much of it. It's like coach said, go half speed. These guys are running half speed. Some may be running full speed. Usually rookie guys, they don't know nothing but full speed. So even when you tell them half speed or three-quarter speed, they're still going full speed. Why? Because they want to earn the job. I get that part. Veteran guys, no matter if you're a third-year veteran, 10-year veteran, when the coach says three-quarter speed, you taking every opportunity to go three-quarter speed, because you know more than anybody on that field, wide receivers run more than anybody on that field, probably outside of maybe the defensive backs. But other than that, we run more than anybody. So any chance we can get to take off or slow-mo it, we're going to slow-mo it. But that doesn't mean that from a mental standpoint, we're not still getting the work done. It can be an exaggerated catch, like just holding the ball out there, working on your grip on the ball. It could be like you said, and I heard what you said too, like tuck the ball in, turn up. That's another part of it. So we don't know exactly. Well, I don't, because I wasn't out there. You were. But I wouldn't know, even if I was out there and I didn't know what the purpose of the drill was, I wouldn't know whether he was going full speed mentally or half speed mentally. I don't know that, because I don't know what they're trying to get out of that drill. You see what I'm saying, Trevor? So
No,
that's why I said what I
way,
said. Yeah.
For people listening, D-Mase and I are brothers. We were coming into this. We will be coming out of it. We see it differently. And so, it's people need to understand that we're brothers and we're good. But we see it differently. I do need, Caroline, you to do me a favor, though.
Sure thing.
I need you to Google classes for English as a second language and get me signed up so I can get over there, because clearly my English isn't very good. Because once again, D-Mase, my brother, you were talking about 75% speed, full speed. Guys do special teams drill. They don't run as fast in the next drill. I totally just said again, I'm not talking about how fast he runs. Mm-hmm. Right? Now let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, let me give you an offensive line example, and then I'll talk about what I saw over there. Okay, and you tell me as a receiver if I'm off base.
Okay.
From an offensive line standpoint, I remember standing out at Washington Commanders training camp before they were the Commanders. We'll just call them that for now. And there was a double team drill between the offensive tackles and tight ends, and there was a young coach out there overseeing it. And I watched those guys practice to fail. It was just sort of a jog through speed where they would take their first steps, they would fit up, hip to hip, shoulder to shoulder, and drive the guy with the blocking dummy back a few yards, and then that would be the end of that rep, right? Mm-hmm. So what I saw them do was take 2 good steps, get fit up side to side, and then narrow their base on the 3rd step and start to stand up as they continue to finish the drill and drive the guy back a few yards with a narrow base and with standing up, right? And so it wasn't like take 2 steps, stop, that's the end of the drill. It was 2 steps, drive them back, that's the end of the drill. So what they practiced was take 2 good first steps, then narrow your base and stand up. That was their muscle memory. Mm-hmm. That was their mental focus. What should they have done? Take those 2 first good steps, and then as long as you're continuing the drill, keep a good low pad level and keep good base with your feet, have them proper width, and then drive the defender back with that proper mental focus before you stop and stand up and move away. Because otherwise you're practicing the opposite. I'll add this. I did a lot of things in the league. I started games at left tackle, left guard, center, right guard. I played right tackle. I was number 46 for the Jets one year. I was playing so much tight end, and I did all the long snapping, and the long snapping thing is a segment. Because there were things that I did there that nobody else did, that nobody else has since, and it was good. But for extra point and field goal, the holder and kicker always want to practice a bad snap drill. And whenever the holder said to me, okay, Trevor, give me some bad snaps, I would always say no. No, I will not practice a bad snap, ever. You get somebody else to give you bad snaps, right? So now, I'm watching Traylon Burks and the receivers. What I'm seeing is in, half-speed drills, jog speed drills, 3/4 speed, and it wasn't just the drill after special teams. It was over the course of practice. I'm watching Nick Westbrook-Akine run his route, see the ball, catch it, tuck it in, watch it with his eyes tucking it in, and then spin or make a little jump cut, not full speed, but just muscle memory, mental memory, habit, so that in the game, that's what he automatically does. I'm watching the veteran receivers do that. I'm watching young receivers do that. And then I see Traylon Burks. At the beginning of a route or a drill he would run hard, man. He'd get off the ball. He would make a really good cut. And then the ball's coming in, and he would just stand up, reach down and grab the ball. Sometimes he's looking at it. Sometimes he's not. And then he'd sort of bring it in towards, a tuck position. Sometimes he'd bring it all the way in. Sometimes he wouldn't bring it all the way in. He'd bring it halfway in and then toss it back. And when he reaches down to catch the ball and then just doesn't bring it all the way in, look it in, and secure it, whether he's in a walk-through speed or anything else, if he brings it halfway through while he's looking somewhere else and then just tosses the ball away. Every time he does that, he misses an opportunity to groove a muscle memory, to have it done the same way every time, at least try to do it the same way every time because he's not being hit, right? And have his eyes in the right place every time, just like Nick Westbrook-Akine did, just like the rookie Jaquan Jackson did, just like Calvin Ridley did. The rest of them did. Now, it's not like every single time you touch the ball, you have to do that or you're failing. But when you're doing a drill where you're running a route, and I see you at the end of the route do the thing that receivers need to do most, which is catch the ball, secure the ball, and then just make some sort of a move, turn up whatever. It doesn't have to be full speed. I don't care if it's full speed. If it's not full speed, it's more important to make sure that you do those fundamentals of catch, secure it, make sure your eyes are in the same spot, and then make a move or don't make a move. But, boy, if you are not catching it and securing it every time when the quarterback's throwing you the ball in a quarterback receiver drill, you tell me if I'm wrong, D-Mase, because you played receiver, I didn't. That, to me, is like the offensive lineman and tight end drill where they are doing the first part of the rep correctly and then practicing to fail in the second half of the rep. That's what bothered me, and it especially bothered me because this is a prove-it season for the current fourth priority wide receiver, Treylon Burks, who needs to show the coach that he's doing everything he can to be able to break out.
Okay. You are absolutely positively right. You're not wrong from that standpoint. But again, here's what my issue was with that, Trevor, is that one, I would cut him. That when you say that, that's all people hear, and you know that. I mean, just as well as anybody else knows it. When you say he needs to be cut or I would cut him, people don't listen to what you say before it. People are not listening to what you say after it. You could have said something glowingly about him afterwards, but what you said in that middle part, that's the only thing people are hearing. Cut him. And when it comes from somebody like you that is well respected in this business, everybody's going to start running with this, cut Treylon, look at what he did in practice, cut him. And my thing is, whoa, pump your brakes. I've been in that position. I played that position. I understand some of these drills, well, basically all of them, unless they've added some new ones in there. I understand all these drills and what they're trying to accomplish or what the coach wants for that particular player. Slow it down, mentally get your reps in. Again, like I said, some guys exaggerate certain things. Some guys make sure they catch the ball, don't tuck it in. Some guys catch it, and I've seen guys, I've done it, caught it and flipped it to the guy and went and got back in line. So those things don't necessarily mean to me that the guy is not mentally focused throughout practice or even in that individual drill. It's what are you trying to get out of it? Now, if it becomes that every single drill that he goes through just about every day, then yeah, we got to change some things. We got to look at what we're doing as a coaching staff and say, hey, listen, we can't have too many of these, 3-quarter drills or these half-quarter drills because some guys, they either go full speed or they don't go full speed, one or the other. And if we want him to go full speed every time, mentally and physically, then we need to say, hey, listen, you take a play off or two, and when you're ready, get back in line so you then can go full speed. That's something that I've seen coaches do as well. So to me, it's not just the mental aspect. It's when you say, I would cut him. That's the only thing people are hearing, Trevor. You know how this world works, and you know how the sports world works. They just want to grab on that one soundbite. Again, you could have said glowing things about Treylon before, and you could have said glowing things about Treylon after, which you have. But the only thing people are hearing is Trevor said cut him. This team needs to cut him because he's not going full speed. Not knowing that, hey, listen, they've been practicing for an hour and a half. He went full speed for an hour and 35 minutes. Of that other 5 minutes, or hour and 25 minutes, the other 5 minutes, coach said relax. He relaxed. Now, again, I can't tell whether mentally he's going full speed or he's not. But I know one thing, when the coach says throttle it down, some guys truly throttle it down. And maybe the coach needs to change that if he wants trailing to go 100 miles per hour with everything mentally and physically.
No, but see, we got to separate mentally and physically.
Yes.
Any discussion of full speed or not full speed physically is not a part of this whole thing.
So we're talking just from a mental standpoint. Yes.
And finishing the drill mentally is what I'm saying.
Yes.
And the thing is, and you're right, you don't always catch the ball, tuck it in every single time, right? There's times you just catch it, toss it back. That's what you're doing. I'm not just talking about one drill. I'm talking about over too many times over the course, not every time, but too many over the course of an entire practice. But the reason I said what I said, though, and I will say that you are right, that there are people in our business that will say things that are really strong because they don't know what else to say. And there's other guys that'll do it because they are trying to get attention. Okay? People that listen to me know.
And I'm not saying you're doing either, Trevor. I wasn't saying you were doing either.
I'm not saying that you're saying that. This is just for the fans that don't listen to me as much. When it comes to me, I'm always looking, I will always call it like I see it. But I am really slow to say things like I just said. It probably shocked everybody's system that used to listen to me that I said that. But here's the reason that I said those words.
Okay.
The reason that I said I'd cut him today is because after couple of years of not being able to perform, whether it's injury or whether it's practice habits or whether it's allergies or whatever it's going to be, that's irrelevant to where he is today. Where he is today is bounce down to the fourth because there's 3 new guys that are all ahead of him. He's now playing special teams. In order for him to really kind of rekindle his career as a receiver, he needs to be giving everything he's got. Physically, sometimes you can't give everything you've got because that's not the nature of the drill, or you're injured, or you're taking some time off because you're sore, or something, or whatever it is. That's totally normal. It's like L'Jarius Sneed with his knees. He doesn't go out physically and practice and go 100%. He probably won't practice a whole lot this year. Physically, different people are in different places. But with a guy that's in that position where he needs to not only show the team that this is going to be a different year, not only show the coaches that he is completely dialed in and bought in. Not only that, for that purpose, but for his own purpose, his own selfish purpose, to do everything possible to be as good as he can possibly be this year. For him to not finish drills mentally, and that's my opinion, but it's not an uninformed opinion. And it's not that I can read his mind. I don't need to read his mind to see what he's doing. He's running a fast route with quarterbacks. He runs the route, and then all of a sudden the ball comes in, he stops. He sort of, reaches down and catches the ball. He sometimes looks it into his hands, sometimes he doesn't because, it's not coming very hard. And then sometimes he tucks it in, and sometimes he does it, and sometimes he watches it in, and sometimes he doesn't. That kind of a thing in the situation that he's in, I do not want my team, if I'm a coach, watching a first-round draft choice with that kind of mental buy-in. I do not want my rookies looking at that guy as an example of how to practice in the NFL. And I'll tell you what, and the reason I said that I'd cut him for that is because physically, sometimes you can't or you don't do things. But mentally, if you don't, it's because you choose not to.
Yeah, you're right about that. From a mental standpoint, let's get the physical out. But from a mental standpoint, yes, if you choose not to mentally go through a route or a play, then that's an opportunity you've lost. But again,
finish the play. Well, I'm talking about finishing it to the end of the drill to include secure the ball in the kind of a drill where you're out in the field running a route.
Exactly. Well, and again, I go back to, a guy of his caliber or a receiver, period, after coming from special teams, you want to slow everything down. Now, sometimes, slowing things down means slowing things down for you as a whole, not just physically, but it's mentally as well. So go ahead. What you're about to say?
Let's get past the drill after the special teams drill. Let's go to look at it as a body of a practice because it's not just that one drill, and it wasn't every single time.
Exactly.
It was just enough that I noticed. That's all.
Trevor Maddich is with us. Trevor, one thing that D-Mase and I have been talking about throughout the offseason is not if Treylon Burks can be a wide receiver in the NFL. We see the talent, we see the size, we've seen the speed and the ability. We know that he has the physical attributes to be an NFL player, but the question that we've had is, does he want it? Does he want to succeed in the NFL? Does he want to live up to the expectations of a first-round pick and doing what it takes to live up to those, albeit high expectations? Does he want to live up to those expectations? You mentioned how it's just a snapshot. You were at a practice. It was a snapshot. You're not following around Treylon Burks everywhere he goes. But from the snapshot that you saw, do you think that Treylon Burks wants it?
It looked like on special teams he did. As a gunner on punt, he's going to win games for this team because he can do things. He's so big and physical, no one's going to take him off his line. He's so fast, he can get down and disrupt that returner before he gets started and save the punt return team 4 or 5 yards a couple of times a game, which might be the difference between a long field goal and a short punt by the offense on the ensuing drive. So I was very impressed with that. From a receiver standpoint, he didn't sell me. If it were Cordell and I were on the jury, could I, beyond a reasonable doubt, say that, man, this guy really is going through the grind with everything he's got mentally, because physically is out of this equation. That's not what I'm talking about. I would convict Jaquan Jackson of that. He was dialed in, man, doing the best he could. I would convict Nick Westbrook-Akine. I would convict DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd. Those guys, mentally, they did what they had to do physically to be ready and to et cetera. But mentally, those guys were locked in when it was time to do what they needed to do. And so from Burks' standpoint, the thing that with a guy like that, he has opened the door to questioning whether or not he wants to prepare hard. A lot of times when you get a young athlete who's bigger, stronger, faster than everybody else, he just gets by on being bigger, stronger, faster. And sometimes they can even get by that way in college, right? You know, if you're that way in high school, you get to college, everybody's big and strong and fast, and sometimes then you don't know how to practice well, you don't want to practice well, your technique isn't up to speed, and you fall away. But some guys are so big and strong and fast that they take it right into the NFL. Now, everybody's bigger and stronger and faster still, and if you don't practice right, then the best you can say is that you won't be anywhere near your potential when it comes to achievement. And so Treylon Burks right now has to prove that he is willing, whether he likes it or not, that he is willing to stay focused on these things that we're talking about, not run hard in practice. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And I saw him run hard a lot in this practice. Whenever it was required to run hard, he ran hard. That's not what I'm talking about. And so that's something that I'm not sold on yet.
And you're right. I don't think there's any way, because we've had this discussion about Treylon. I don't think there's any way we can determine whether, from a mental standpoint, whether he's going 100%, whether he wants it or not. That's solely up to Treylon. But I haven't heard anything come out of that building. Now, again, they may be holding it all in. I don't know. But I haven't heard anything come out of that building questioning.
You have the D-Mase you have.
No. I haven't heard anything out of that building questioning his effort. I haven't heard it
No.
this year. I didn't hear it last year. I didn't hear it the year before. What I'm hearing coming out of that building is he can't stay on the field. He's always hurt. He needs to prove it this year because he hasn't been on the field enough. He's missed too many games. For whatever reason, he's had concussions. He's had some fluke injuries that have happened to him his first 2 years in the NFL, and it's just unfortunate for him. But even with the last regime, I've never heard Treylon not being mentally focused at practice or in the game. Now, we can question everything else that goes around, whether he can be on the field, whether he's injury prone, stuff like that. We can question that. I question that. But one thing I haven't heard come out of that building, again, they could be holding some stuff back. I don't know. But one thing I haven't heard was a coach saying, whether it be this regime or last regime, saying Treylon is not working hard. He's not mentally and physically ready to go, other than his first year when he wasn't ready. When he first came, he was out of shape. But after that, they've been raving about him. So until I hear it come out of that building from them, then I'm going to continue to think that Traylon's working hard. But even in working hard, he has to stay on the field. I've reiterated that 100 times about Traylon. But when it comes from a mental aspect, again, we've talked about this. I can't determine whether Traylon Burks wants it or not. That's solely up to Traylon Burks. They'll get a good idea once they get going whether he wants it or not from a mental standpoint. Right now, they're operating from the standpoint of, hey, listen, we just got to get this kid staying on the field because he hasn't been able to stay on the field. If we get him to stay on the field, then hopefully, maybe we start to see some of that talent. But never once have I heard them question his effort, whether it be this regime or the last regime. Now, that's in public. I haven't heard that in public. I haven't heard it in private either. No one's told me that. But you may have heard something different. Willy and Caroline or Jared, they may have heard something different, but I haven't heard that.
Well, Trevor, I'll ask you this. Do you think they would say anything publicly, even if they did question Traylon Burks' effort?
Not this staff. Coach Brian Callahan was praising people when he first came in, just based on tape that, some of the local commentators were like, wait a minute, what? You said that about that guy? We've been watching him since he's been, that kind of a thing. So, no, I haven't heard anything either about them saying anything bad about Traylon's effort or focus or anything like that. I'm telling you what I saw. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, though, about identifying what a mindset might be, at least on a particular rep or a particular drill or something like that. You can't really tell what a guy is thinking, but you can often tell what he's not thinking. And again, going back to running a drill, not a just warm-up drill, you're jogging through, you catch the ball, whatever. I'm talking about you're running a route hard and fast, and here comes the ball. If all the other receivers are watching the ball in their hands, watching the ball into the tuck, and then making a move, half-speed move, whatever the speed is, but they're doing that, that they're thinking, I'm practicing catching and securing that ball and making sure my eyes are in the right place. And if you're doing that half the time, then that's not a priority mentally. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I can read people's minds. I'm just looking at that going, that's not hard to do if you choose to do it. If you don't choose to do it, tell me why that's okay, because I may be wrong.
Trevor Matich is with us. Trevor, you've been incredibly gracious with your time. Just one quick question before we let you go. What do you say to some of our listeners or those on social media who say, well, who cares? It's just practice. I will quote Ray Lewis, the great Hall of Fame linebacker of the Baltimore Ravens, Super Bowl champion. They pay me to practice. Games are free. Till you can't get it wrong. And he also said practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. The physical side of practice is important. The mental side of practice is the hard part, because it's too easy to lose mental focus when you slow down physically. But then you're training the wrong thing. And the last thing I want to say is this. D-Mase, I love you. I respect you. You played receiver. I did not. And so this was a great discussion, and I've enjoyed it. But I've got to tell you, man, that you're still my brother. I hope I'm still yours.
Oh, absolutely.
And we'll continue to move on forward.
Absolutely. That's why, that's why we had you on. We're not scared of conversation, even if we disagree. We disagree and we move on. So that's the way it is. So, but thanks a lot, Trevor, for coming on. We appreciate it. Your insight of not just the position you play, but other positions. You have the knowledge. You're well respected, as I've said many times in this industry. So thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. Thanks for your insight.
Trevor, you're the best.
All right, thanks, man.
Yep.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys.
Appreciate your time, Trevor. Trevor Matich, ESPN, NFL, and college football analyst. We do have to hit a break, but we've got a bunch of reaction on the text line, so we are right to you. Your reaction to Trevor and Derek's conversation about Traylon Burks. Our reaction to the conversation. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. Become a sponsor for the tournament or register as a team and join the 615 Open presented by Gary Force Acura. Proceeds will help raise money for Souls for Souls. Sponsorship packages could include email campaigns, commercials, radio advertising, and more. So learn more about our different packages and how you can support a good cause at 615open.com. Appreciate Trevor Maddich for joining us earlier in the hour. You, D-Mase, and Trevor were kind of going back and forth about your different perspectives on Traylon Burks. Trevor Maddich said last week on Jared's show he would cut Traylon Burks today for his effort. He kind of doubled down on those statements. You two went back and forth on it last segment. Our reactions from what Trevor had to say.
Listen, Trevor's going to stand by his word, and I'm cool with that. I am honestly, truly cool with that. But that's not my perspective. That's not how I see it. I see it entirely different, and I am not going to change how I think about this situation because I've been in it. Like, I know, so I'm not going to change it, whether it be from a mental standpoint. I'm going to take the physical out because it seemed like, that's what Trevor was trying to separate, the mental and the physical. And I'm good. Like, take out the physical. I didn't too much care about. But again, it's from the mental standpoint.
Because that's been our question all along. We know physically he can do it.
Yeah, physically he can do it.
Mentally, where's he at?
Exactly. Mentally, where is he as a player? Now, I'm sure mentally it's been a roller coaster for him because of his injuries, I'm sure he's frustrated, or he was frustrated, and then you bring in two new receivers that sort of, drops him down the totem pole. So in regards to his feelings, mentally, he could be just about everywhere. Hopefully he's focused on, coming in and being the best version of himself that he can possibly be. But again, when you step out and you say something like Trevor said, and again, I don't think Trevor, at least me, I don't think Trevor, and I don't think I ever said he was doing it for clicks or anything else. But you got to understand.
For those that don't know, Trevor Maddich, he doesn't care about social media. Like, that's not in his DNA to say something just to be in headlines. Other than
Twitter, he's probably on Twitter. But
I don't even think he's on Twitter.
Everything else, I haven't seen him on it.
He doesn't care about being, shock jock.
So that was never my thing. But just because you don't intend on it to be a lightning rod statement, or you're probably not even thinking about it being a lightning rod statement, others look at it totally different. You're just doing your job. You're just giving an assessment of what you're seeing as a former player. What you say and what everybody else chooses to do with what you say, that's up to them. But I don't think he said it as, I'm going to say this because I wanted to get it circulated all around Nashville and Tennessee and other states. No. But when you say something like that, you got to understand, after looking back on it, you got to understand, well, yeah, I'm going to hold on to what I said, but yeah, I can understand whether it was me, Willy, or anybody else, I can understand what they're saying or how they see it or perceive it. Doesn't mean that it's going to, like, you would change it. It's just being able to see the other person's side.
I
understand what Trevor was saying through the whole thing. But my perspective on it, because I've been through it, is totally different from that. Like, you can still be working through things mentally. And somebody from afar can be looking at you and think you're loafing. But no, I'm not loafing. Mentally, I'm on point. I know exactly what I'm doing. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes it may be an exaggeration of the catch. Sometimes I'm not going to tuck it in. Sometimes I'm going to burst off the line of scrimmage fast and then get into my route and then slow up and catch the ball and do what I need to do. So there are a myriad of things that happens within a route in practice. It doesn't always have to be mentally full speed or physically full speed. It's whatever I need to get out of this drill, I'm going to get out of it. If the coach says mentally, physically slow it down, I'm going to slow it down. But that doesn't mean I'm still not going to go through my progression of catching the football slowly or exaggerating the catch on the sideline. Maybe I want to hold it out there for a while, squeeze it, toe tap the line of scrimmage or get up the field. But that doesn't mean that I'm not mentally focused on what I'm doing because I am mentally focused. That's why I'm doing these certain things that may to you, it may look like I'm loafing, but I'm not loafing. I know exactly what I'm doing from a mental standpoint.
I listened to the whole conversation. The attention to detail and the mental reps, all of that stuff to me is a great discussion. And that's, I think, just as a lover of sports, as a player, as if you're a coach listening, all that is really important, regardless of sport, professional, youth, high school, whatever level. Right? You teach good habits, and every detail is important. That's all in bounds. But to me, it's more of a media discussion, the issue I have. And look, when you set off a provocative statement, that's kind of what talk radio is to some degree. Like I'd love to sit there and say really nice, detailed discussion like that without any pizzazz would get great ratings. But sometimes you say something for effect. I just thought that when you say a guy should be cut, and you're saying it as a former pro, that is a little hyperbole. Like, it's not realistic that if a guy is doing exactly what he says Treylon Burks did, that doesn't warrant you being cut. And I just would have liked Trevor to, come to grips with that, right? And I'm not saying he intentionally said it with the intention of trying to be a lightning rod, but like Derek said from the beginning, that if you didn't listen to the details and you're just driving along in your car and you're busy doing this or that, you're watching the road and you heard Trevor say, I'd have cut him. That is what resonates. That's what sticks in your brain, and that's unfair to Treylon Burks. They are not going to cut him because of his lack of details in one snapshot, as he said it, practice. It's not in the real realm, and Trevor knows that. But to stick by that, I would have liked him to say, okay, look, they weren't realistic. I exaggerated to make a point, and that's okay. That's what talk radio is. We go hard to drive home our point sometimes.
I don't know if he was exaggerating to make a point.
But
I think it's
when is the last time you heard a guy do exactly that in practice? One thing he said, he overslept 3 days in a row, and he's missed practice, and he's cut on the spot. That's different than what he's saying. I don't think I've ever heard of a player get cut for doing exactly what Trevor said he did,
unless there were
in a
other
snapshot.
things
In a snapshot.
And Trevor didn't say that he's going to get cut. Trevor said, look, based off of his effort, I would have cut him today.
Well, he would have cut a lot of guys then, and he'd have like 3 guys on his team if you held everybody to that standard.
And Trev's not a general manager.
But you see my point. Trevor knows these things. It's not a person who hasn't been on the field saying that. That's what disappointed me. That's the only thing. And his point is great.
We have to hit a break real quick. I do want to get into some reaction on the phones as well. So we will continue this conversation coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All right, let's talk Loan Pronto, the Express Equity line of credit. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780. We've been talking about this way and this tool to get yourself on better financial ground for a long time now, and a lot of you have taken them up on it, and you've put yourself in a better financial position. Imagine being 100% debt-free from credit cards that had those huge interest rates, or car loans, something similar that's eating up your monthly budget. The way to do it is through your home's equity. Your home's value is way up. Use that to wipe out the credit card bill. Get some money for a home improvement project if that's what you need. Hundreds of thousands of dollars are at your fingertips, and approval is just minutes away. It's a fast digital process. With the AI-based system that Loan Pronto has, you can get approval quickly with almost no documentation, no appraisal, and no hassle. The average person that goes through this will save around $850 a month doing this. Yours could be more, depending on where you're situated. So call now and find out more from Loan Pronto. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Again, appreciate Trevor Matich for stopping by earlier this hour. We'll catch up with Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst, in just a few moments. Do want to run all of this by Tim, our conversation with Trevor Matich and Trevor Matich's evaluation of what he saw from Traylon Burks in practice. Before we get to Tim, just a quick thought. I'm seeing a bunch of thoughts in our text line of, why is everyone bashing on Trevor's opinion? Why can't Trevor have his opinion on what he saw? My thought on this is it's really easy to dismiss an opinion that might be uncomfortable, something that you might not want to hear. I don't think anyone wants to hear what Trevor evaluated of Traylon Burks in practice. It was Trevor's opinion, but it's not a comfortable one to hear. To hear how Traylon Burks, from Trevor's opinion, was kind of dogging it in practice.
To me, it's not the
easy to
opinion's
dismiss
not the
that.
word. I have no problem with his opinion or his observation. It's the hyperbole of saying I would cut him. That's hyperbole.
If
That's not an opinion.
I don't think that Trevor views,
I don't think he
it
really.
very much so is
I don't think he
opinion.
really means that.
Well, he
I
told
don't
us
think
he
really- I
doesn't
know.
want that attitude in the locker room, and that was his justification for it. You don't have to agree with it.
But you cut a guy over a habit that you observe over a long period of time. He was talking about, in his own words, a snapshot of one practice. Nobody gets cut, especially somebody that we know. We've watched Traylon Burks for 3 years. I don't think he's got that tag, as D-Mase pointed out several times. So, again, I'm only talking – the only problem I had with anything that Trevor said was that he would cut him. That's shock jock stuff.
And that phrase was the premise around everything that we discuss was, when you say something like that, listen, I'm not asking for him to, recant what he said or anything else. He's going to stick to it, and I respect that. But even in sticking to it, you got to know. You can't, and I'm not saying that he is, but anybody in this, you can't be too bullheaded to think, no, what I said, there was nothing completely wrong what I said. Well, in this world and in this space, when you're talking about a particular player, there is something wrong with that if that's not the consensus. If it's just a snapshot of what you're seeing, it's not you've been there, or, for 2 weeks or a week, or the coaches have been sort of putting this out, or it's been getting out somehow, some way that Traylon or whoever is dogging it. If that is indeed the case, then yes, we can have that conversation. But in this situation, that wasn't the case. And listen, Trevor said what he had to say. I said what I had to say. I come from a school of thought that I'm not going to continue to argue and try to beat my head against a brick wall. The brick wall ain't going nowhere. My head's going to get bashed. So I'm not going to keep doing it. He said what he said, and I respect that. Trevor and I, he'll still come on, and we'll still have his take, and I agree with him majority of the times. But this certain situation, that what he said can be taken and ran with it. They can play it on another station. This is what Trevor Matich said about Traylon Burks on another station, not giving full context. That happens in this business. We know it happens in that business. Yeah. That's why I say that was, to me, listen, when I said, and when he said some people say irresponsible, it was me that said irresponsible. Me and me only. I'm going to hold on to my words, and I'm going to repeat those. I felt that it was irresponsible. That particular, what he said, that wording was irresponsible to me, because people take that. He could have said Traylon Burks was working so hard, the drill before, or Traylon's doing great in practice, the drill after. Only thing some people are hearing is, I would cut him. That's all. If I was there, I would cut him. That's all they're hearing. And that's unfair to him. I know that's your opinion, but even in your opinion, I may say some things that's my opinion, but somebody else may look at it as, man, that wasn't fair to say. And if we talk and have a conversation and I think about it, yeah, you're right. It may not have been fair, but I'm going to stand by what I said. But you may be right. It may not have been fair to say to him at that particular time, but I'm just telling you what I saw at that particular time.
We'll get Tim Hasselbeck's thoughts on it. He'll join us coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. You can tune in to Robbie and Rex Road tomorrow morning from 6 to 9 a.m. for your chance to win tickets to see Alanis Morissette at Bridgestone Arena on June 23rd. Contest presented by Green Trees. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game and the Game Nashville app. We're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. And we are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck will join us here in just a few moments. Also, appreciate Trevor Maddich for joining us in the last hour. So Trevor Maddich and D-Mase kind of discussed their respective perspectives on the Traylon Burks situation. Obviously, Trevor Maddich was out at practice a couple of weeks ago, said that he would have cut Traylon Burks for his effort in practice. So if you missed that, you can find that on your preferred podcast platform. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase on Spotify, whatever. We're on YouTube as well. So be sure to catch that if you missed that. Joining us now is ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck. Tim, appreciate your time today. The Titans wrapped up the offseason period with the OTAs yesterday, had mandatory minicamp last week, so they're off until training camp until mid to late July. In the offseason period with the OTAs and minicamp, understanding that things are new, especially now with the new coaching staff, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, a lot of new pieces on this squad, how much do you feel like you can get out of OTAs and minicamp, and what do you look for in this period now that we've officially entered the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing you look for through those periods is like it's all new, right? So who's picking it up? You know, there's probably some familiarity for some players where they maybe been in the system before, maybe they get it quicker than others. You know, you see your young guys, how quickly have they picked it up. So I think that's the first thing is, you know, they're typically your first three installs. A lot of times, especially, you know, people with West Coast background, because it's the way it's always been done. You know, the 3-day mini camp install, that's also the first 3 days of training camps install. And so you kind of have a basis of knowledge of where you think your team is and their understanding of it. And then, you know, for guys that were behind, look, they had a chance to try to get caught up on some of the stuff. So, you know, I think that's what it really does. And then it also, you know, I think you can find yourself in environments where, you know, somebody was impressive, you know, through, you know, training camp. Or, you know, somebody was like, you know, we drafted this guy, we thought he was something, and he's maybe not that. And so, you know, I think that's kind of, you know, the thermometer, if you will, or just kind of the barometer, I guess I should say, is like where your team is at that moment. And I think that's where it's helpful because it gives you a sense of, you know, where your kind of jumping off point is when you get to training camp.
A couple of names that have been on the report of not on the field, whether it was OTAs or minicamp. T'Vondre Sweat, the Titans' second-round pick, 38th overall pick out of Texas, and Nicholas Petit-Frere, who I think we all view as the leader in the clubhouse to take that starting right tackle position. Neither of them were on the field in minicamp or OTAs. What would be your concern level for those two guys not able to be out on the field? Brian Callahan saying that T'Vondre Sweat dealing with a minor injury.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the number one thing is, like, you're not getting coached, right? So there's, whether it's an injury, like that right there, like guys are injured, and so you're dealing with that. And then I think the other aspect of it is, look, you're not getting coached, which is what those guys need to be doing, you know, especially if it's going to be slightly different than things that they've done in the past. So, you know, that for me would be, you know, kind of the number one concern that I would have about guys that are, I don't know, that you're expecting a lot of, to your point, right? Like you're expecting guys to be a starter, guys to play at a high level. And so whether they're talking injuries before we're ever in pads, or whether it's, you know, not, you know, a full understanding of being coached in the system, like those would be things that, you know, I think you at least probably start to have a discussion about, are there veteran players that have been in the system that we feel like we could count on?
We're talking with Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst and head coach of the Innsworth Tigers. Now, Tim, this is more of a philosophical question for you in regards to building a team. You've spoken with a lot of GMs and coaches, especially in today's football. Is it better to try to build your defense up first, considering and I'm talking relative to the Tennessee Titans because, you know, they got a lot of building and rebuilding to do with their roster. But is it better when you're facing these teams that have these, these awesome and great quarterbacks, or these offenses that are sort of high gear offenses, is it better to build your team to try to outscore them, or is it better to build your team to stop them? And once you build it to stop them, then you try to build the other areas around them. I know you need your quarterback. I understand that part. But it seems like, if you try to outscore a team, that may not work, because a lot of teams have been trying to put together their roster to outscore Kansas City, and it still hadn't worked.
Yeah, I mean, I think this. I think that in all my time, I've been an analyst, for 16 years now. The thing that I would say is that we probably all tend to focus too much on offenses. Like, I just know that I'm guilty of it, where, like, I'm like, hey, which team's better? I'm like, I choose the team that I think's got the better offense. And, you kind of find yourself in an environment where it's just what we do. We favor quarterbacks, we favor offense, and all of that. But you can compete with a good defense, because offensively, while you have to score points, you also have the ability to, look, you can play slow. You can slow things down. And if you have a defense, you're limiting possessions, and, you have a chance to be in it, right? And so I definitely believe that, yes, you need the quarterback. Yes, you need to score points to win. But at the same time, if you have a really good defense, you can be competitive, because you can change how you play on offense to at least give yourself a chance in the fourth quarter. So I say all that to say that, I think that the teams have done that. I feel like I've seen teams do that. I feel like, it's not the most exciting brand of football, but it keeps you in it. What you can't be successful doing, I don't think, is if you can't stop anybody. If you can't get off the field on third down, if you can't stop people from running the football, then I don't care how good your offense is. You're just going to find yourself where, the ball doesn't bounce your way, and, next thing you know, it's death by paper cut because they're running the ball down your throat or something like that. So,
Tim, I hate to cut you off here, but your phone is sounding a little bit funky, so we're going to hang up, call back, and hopefully to workshop your phone situation here. So we'll call you back here in just a moment. All right, there was a little bit of a relief there, not hearing that ticking sound.
It was like, is they tapping the phone? We got the government, the boys tapping the phone?
At first, it sounded like birds were chirping.
Boys.
Yeah. The boys tapping the phone? What y'all doing?
I was going to three-way
What y'all
call
doing?
for a second.
I mean, what y'all doing? I mean, come on now. Y'all doing something illegal, Nick? What you doing? What you doing when you leave this place?
So we'll get Tim on here in just a
Don't
second.
blame me, D-Mase. Come on now.
Yeah,
It
poor
kind of sounds
Nick.
like my AirPods after they went through the wash. They're just,
Yeah.
You get that feedback, turn it up, man, let's hear it. And it's static, I got to get some new AirPods.
Do we have Tim back?
I'm
There we
back.
go.
Much better.
You got me?
Yep, that's much better.
This is
so
much
here's the deal.
better.
I'm back. I'm literally the same spot I've been in for every week for the last 6 years.
I told him it was the
Always
boys.
amazed me.
It was
I can
the
remember
boys.
doing hits with you guys when I lived in New York City,
Uh-huh.
and it'd be like, "Hey," and I'm like, "How are you not getting reception in New York City?" I literally am in the same spot I'm always in.
Mm-hmm.
I could hear that too. I was like, maybe it's just me hearing it.
I think it was all of us. But no, what you were saying, Tim, and because so many teams, and I experienced this a while back when Peyton Manning was just entering into his prime, and we had to go up against Indianapolis every year. It wasn't so much of how can we outscore Indianapolis, because we had a format of what we did. We ran the football, we played great defense, and we threw the ball, but it wasn't like Indianapolis did. But what the coaching staff did and Floyd Reese did, they went out and got defensive players. They went out and got Javon Curse, guys that can get to the passer quickly, so it negates some of the stuff that they're able to do from an offensive standpoint. That's why I asked the question, because some fans or people look at it as, we need to build this offense. We need to build this offense to outscore this team. Well, yeah, that's great, but if you ain't got a defense to stop somebody, you're not outscoring Kansas City. You're not outscoring Cincinnati, teams like that have these high-powered, elite quarterbacks.
And that's why I think watching what the Chargers do, what the Los Angeles Chargers do, I think is going to be really interesting, because it feels to me So, like, that's a team like, nope, we're going to run the football. We're going to invest in defense in a big way. And that is how we are going to challenge these amazing AFC quarterbacks. Like, that's what I feel like is going to happen. It's going to be interesting to see, watch like that unfold.
With that being said, do you think, because Jim Harbaugh is probably one of few guys in this business that can sort of change how you think or what you think about offenses or football in general, just based upon what they're able to accomplish? Like, Jim Harbaugh is a run-first type of guy, and he's going to play great defense. Not that he's not going to throw the ball around the yard, but what he wants to do is maul you up and down the field from an offensive standpoint and then from a defensive standpoint. So if they're successful, do you think this may change the narrative just a little bit on, you need this or this to be a successful team or a successful offense?
Yeah. Here's what I think. I think if you look at a team like the Cowboys, which is a good football team, but they found themselves playing at times with 210-pound linebackers. And because of that, because they were playing with 210-pound linebackers, there were people that just ran the ball down their throat at times. And then conversely, like, you just look at, Baltimore, so Jim Harbaugh's brother, like, what have they done? Like, they have had these big physical backs, a 295-pound fullback, big tight ends, and they've run the football. And then they've tried to play really good defense. And while they've, not won a Super Bowl, the past few years, like, they've been a problem for people. So unless you have Patrick Mahomes, like, which only one team does, like, your plan can't be like, hey, let's do it like they're doing it. Well, you don't have him. So I do think D-Mase, like, as everyone said, like, hey, we're going to spread it out, we're going to do this. Like, I think there are some teams that are like, no, like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a fullback in the backfield. We're going to put a big tight end. And, like, we're going back to 1970, and we are going to pound the ball.
We're talking to Tim Hasselbeck. Tim, I think the 49ers know what they're doing, and obviously they've got a little extra in the budget because of the unique situation of their quarterback. They've got a great quarterback who's not taking up a lot of cap space right now. But what did you make of the Christian McCaffrey reinvestment at this stage of his career? That's against the grain based on what most running backs get, but of course Christian McCaffrey is not an ordinary guy.
No, he's not ordinary, and I think that's a real difference, right? Like, I think that's why, like, the guys that could catch 100 balls in a season, like, they're running backs, yeah, but they're not, and I think that's the difference. And I think with what they do on offense and just kind of like the versatility of a player that could line up as an X receiver, be a Z receiver, then he'd be a tailback, and he can run, power and inside zone and ISO, and, like, he can do all of those things. So I think, like, that to me is why he's just a little bit different. I think Saquon Barkley is a guy that could be different as well. The difference is Saquon's been injured, and McCaffrey, for the most part, has been pretty much healthy throughout his career. So, that's really where I think why he's an outlier and against the grain in terms of how he's been compensated.
What's interesting, though, about that is I look at Carolina and the mess that they have become, and they have been burned badly on some trades here, and they have not come away with much. And McCaffrey, looking back, he did have 2 years with Carolina where the tag might have been, hey, look, he's struggling to stay healthy. Let's trade him. But they just didn't get much for him, right? But that is, looking back on it, man, they've got to be thinking, what were we thinking?
I also think, too, like, and this is where coaching matters, and there's a factor. It's you take a player like Isaiah Simmons, the really talented linebacker out of Clemson who goes to Arizona. It just wasn't a fit. It wasn't working, wasn't making plays. They weren't sure he was going to make the team. And the next thing you know, he goes to the Giants, and I think at the time it was Wink Martindale. Was like, oh, okay, like, now we're finding some unique things to do with them, and so I think a similar thing for offensive players. Like Wes Welker at one point was in Miami, and it was like, yeah, I don't know what we do with this guy. Like, yeah, he's okay, he might make the team, and he goes to New England, and it's incredible, what he does. He catches 110 balls a year. So, I think that McCaffrey is one of those guys. Like, unless you really see his versatility and what he can do, yeah, like you may end up just whiffing on the whole idea of what it means when you have a guy like Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, that was a whiff, but there's been more than one whiff for Carolina here. Circling, let's go to New York here, and every time I flip on Stephen A. Smith or whatever talk show is on when we have the sound down while we're talking on the air, it is Aaron Rodgers not at mandatory minicamp. So what do you make of that? What's going on there?
Yeah. So I normally be like, whoa, okay, that's bad. I will say this. I feel like Aaron has been very committed this offseason to the Jets. I mean, he's been at basically every voluntary thing that they've had. And so had he not been around for any of that and then doesn't show up to the mandatory stuff, I'd think, okay, that I would question that. I'd be concerned about that. But, because he's been at all the stuff that he really hasn't had to be at, and then going back to last season after the Achilles injury, when a lot of guys would just say, hey, I'm going home, I'm out, like he was there. He was in meetings, he was going to the games and stuff. So I think Aaron's actually been more committed than most people would have expected in year 2 with the Jets. And my guess is it was communicated the way that it was because Aaron's probably at an event that's maybe publicized. And so rather than saying, hey, he's not here for a personal matter, you're going to find out that he was whatever, at some darkness retreat that somebody sees him at. And they're going to say, yeah, he was there, right? And so I think that's probably why, Saleh has had to address it the way that he has.
I love Diana Rossini's report when she wrote, he prefers to be somewhere else away from football. Like, yeah, I'm sure a lot of those guys would prefer to be somewhere away from football, but, woe is me. Tim Hasselbeck is with us. Tim, last one from me. We were discussing this yesterday. The safety market has been awfully quiet. Is the safety position becoming like the running back position, undervalued now that a lot of the money is tied up with not just the quarterback position, but now the wide receiver position?
See, I don't. I think for the right guy, no. Like Kyle Hamilton in Baltimore, such a unique player because of his versatility. Like, we're talking about offenses, and still right now, everybody is trying in a passing league to spread the field out and do all that. But that safety needs to tackle too. So I actually think it's a valued position. I just think it's a really difficult position. And so until you can find the guy, because it's rare to find the guy that can cover a man coverage, is a good, open space half field or, center of the field player. But then when he's one-on-one with space with a tailback, he can get him to the ground. He can cover a tight end. He can be versatile enough to play, in dime or nickel packages. And so I just think it's a hard position. And I think rather than paying guys that are just okay, it's people are waiting for the next Kyle Hamilton or Ed Reed or whoever it may be that is a really good, versatile player.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck. Tim, appreciate you for stopping by today. Training camp going well this summer, I hope?
Well, good workouts going in.
Nice.
Actually, our workouts are working better than my phone is working today. so that's good.
Well, good to hear it. Tim, appreciate you. We'll catch up with you soon.
All right, see you guys.
All right, appreciate it. Tim the Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst. Do you want to react to what he had to say there? Plus, coming up next, I saw something that Derrick Henry said in a press conference in Baltimore, and I thought, some Titans fans out there are not going to take very kindly to this. But I don't think that you should feel that way. We'll react to that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
With just having Lamar next year, how much will that open opportunities for you? Obviously, he takes so much attention on the defense, but how much do you think that will create opportunities and lanes for you?
Yeah, it definitely brings a different aspect because he's a dual threat quarterback and he's dangerous with his legs just as he is with his arm. And it's going to be fun and a breath of fresh air, not being the center of attention, knowing that eyes are going to be on him as well. But I'm just excited to get to work and put the work in out here and let it all come together when it's that time.
That was Derrick Henry in a media availability following mandatory minicamp in Baltimore. So I initially saw this. It was a Pro Football Talk tweet. And it was just a picture of Derrick Henry, a link to an article, and the tweet said, Derrick Henry, quote, it's a breath of fresh air not being the center of attention. And I thought, oh boy, what's this? Because we know Derrick's never the kind of guy to stir the pot.
No.
Derrick is never going to be the guy that's trying to stick it to anybody else. But when I saw that, I thought, surely this is going to catch fire amongst Titans Twitter of, Derrick Henry is disrespecting the Titans. It's a breath of fresh air not being the center of attention in Baltimore. How dare he disrespect the Titans like that? But obviously, listening to the clip, we know Derrick Henry well enough to know that he has zero ill will. And let me just say, I think there's a lot of truth to that. With the Titans, it was stacked boxes. Everybody had an eye on 22. And if they didn't have an eye on 22, it was an eye on DeAndre Hopkins. And that was about it. I'm sure it's going to be nice for Derrick Henry to not be the center of attention in this Baltimore Ravens offense, that he's not the only focal point of an offense. I don't blame him for feeling that way.
I think it's going to be a story throughout the NFL this year, especially if the Ravens are successful. I think it will be something that we watch very closely. So this is probably why Derrick Henry chose to go to Baltimore, is he could be – and he was willing to go to the next stage of his career in a different market to be a little bit more of a complementary piece on a championship team as opposed to the guy that every time, even as he aged, it was, you're playing the Titans? All right, let's start our game plan. Where do we start?
Derrick
Let's
Henry.
start. How do we deal with number 22? There was nothing at all untrue about what he said there.
Yeah.
I don't think he lied one bit. I think it was the truth. He wasn't trying to, smear the Titans or trying to, throw jabs or anything else. But what he was saying is the truth. And he wasn't saying it so much. It wasn't for the Titans. He wasn't saying it, directing it at the Titans. He was saying, listen, it's good to potentially walk into a game and defense is not being keyed on stopping you and you only. It's not a dig. Okay. It sort of is kind of a little bit. Just a little bit. It is.
The Titans have to be involved in this conversation.
It is a dig a little bit. Just a little bit. But I don't think Derrick Henry meant for it to be a dig.
Yeah.
In other words,
But it is a dig a little. Because it's like, now I get to go in with the quarterback that is all world, a tight end that is all world, got receivers out here that is going to be balling. Man, this offense look like this is the first time I can be in an offense where it's not me. Like the defense is gearing up to stop me. Even though he's going to find out very quickly, they still going to be geared up to stop him. But I understand exactly. But I understand the premise of what he was saying. Potentially walking into a game, knowing that you are not the top of the list of guys they need to stop. You're going to be on that list, but I guarantee you the first person on that list is Lamar Jackson.
Right.
He's the first person on that list, and then it may be Derrick Henry, or then it may be, Andrews to tight ends or Zay Flowers. But he's not the one guy that the whole defense is looking at to stop. That is a breath of fresh air for him because now he gets to go in and now I don't have to run against 8 and 9 man boxes all the time. They got to respect the quarterback running it and the quarterback throwing it. But it is a little dig at the
Not
Titans.
an intentional dig?
It's not an intentional dig.
Is the unintentional dig that they didn't put a better overall product around him? At least Because I do see, like, we remember, and it may not even been their best overall team because the defense wasn't good, but that offense the one year, I think it was 2020, when they had the peak of efficiency of Henry, and then Brown and Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith. That last year, I think it was 2020, because the next year I think was the Julio Jones, which, that didn't go quite as well, even though Derrick Henry was great. But the stats of that offense that was top 10.
Yeah.
So you saw what it looked like when they had some semblance of threats
on the outside
to help him. That was a really darn good offense. And Ryan Tannehill, his numbers were lights out because he could run a little bit. I'm really curious now at this stage of his career, how do they use him? How often do they give him the ball? Because they have other running backs too. It's not like they have just one guy and a bunch of no-names. They've got some guys who are pretty decent complementary running backs. So what's the amount of carries he gets? I'm really intrigued with that. I'm sure when all the fantasy football talk gets going here in a few weeks and all the draft preparations start, that is going to be a huge question for fantasy owners is where do you draft Derrick Henry?
Don't
Who
draft
is left over? Gus Edwards is gone, correct?
Yeah, Gus Edwards is gone. The kid from
They have
Ohio
the kid
State
that blew out his
gone.
knee last year that'll be back.
Keontae Mitchell.
Year.
That's his name, I believe. Keontae Mitchell, number 34.
Yes.
So. But they've lost some offensive linemen. Now they've had to replace, I think, 2 or 3 offensive linemen. But what he's going to, they didn't get Derrick Henry. I don't really care about his carries during the year. They didn't get Derrick Henry for the regular season. Let me repeat this. They didn't get Derrick Henry for the regular season. His numbers, they don't care as long as he doesn't get hurt and he still resembles the Derrick Henry that we've been seeing. Not to say he's going to rush for 2,000 yards, but if Derrick Henry rushes for 1,100 yards, 1,200 yards, they're good with that. Even if he rushes for 900 yards, and they're like, because they're going to do the 2-back thing, and then the quarterback's going to run. Yeah. Even if Derrick Henry gets a 900 yards, averages 4.2 yards a carry, and has 8, 9, 10 touchdowns, they didn't get him for the regular season. They got him for the playoffs. That's what we were talking to. That's why I asked the question with Tim. Baltimore knows now we don't want to try to outscore Kansas City. That's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to outscore the Chargers. What we want to do is slow the game down and force them to play the type of ball that we want to play in the playoffs. We're going to run it down your throat. I'm telling you what John Harbaugh is thinking right now. We got him to run down your throat when we get in the playoffs. We're going to slow the game down, force you to tackle this big guy, and when you try to tackle him over and over again, we're going to play action, and we're going to hit Andrews or Zay Flowers down the field or one of these other receivers. They got Derrick Henry for the playoffs. This has nothing to do for the regular season. He's going to excel in the regular season, I believe, because he's going to stay healthy. But they got him solely for the playoffs.
So these are the other guys they have. It's interesting, right? They're not household names. Keaton Mitchell, who played only 8 games last year, but averaged, he had 396 yards, very good success rate, 68%. Why can't I find yards per carry all of a sudden? But it's a pretty good numbers in a small sample size. And Justice Hill, who
he's pretty good. I like Justice Hill.
Yeah,
he's pretty good.
So like they can, like you said, they can. Maybe they have the luxury of doing this. If you have to win, then you have to maybe change your thinking. But they could definitely use Derrick Henry sparingly if they want, and hold him back, and then, in January, February, you're trying to make a run, then you lean on him a little bit.
It's also a dangerous
but
game.
That's a different.
We know
that's a different role for Derrick Henry, though. Very different.
It's a
right?
very different role, and we know that Derrick Henry gets better the more he's used. He gets better later in the season. He gets better on carry 15, 16, 17 versus carry 2, 3, 4. So he's going to be used differently, but I do wonder, and I'm intrigued to see how Derrick Henry kind of responds to that. I'm not being the bell cow. I mean, I'm sure it's a breath of fresh air to know that he's not going to be the focal point of the defenses.
So Hill, 4.6 yards per carry. Sounds pretty good to me. And then 5.9 yards per carry more than that. What's 47 carries for 300? 8.4?
Yeah,
That's correct.
8.4.
Yeah.
That's Keaton Mitchell. So, geez,
But
even more than I thought.
They had a good collection of versatile backs. Like each back did something very well.
That's what happens when you have Lamar, right?
Exactly, absolutely. That's the Lamar effect, and the Lamar effect is going to. Derrick Henry is going to feel the Lamar effect. He's going to feel it more so, I believe, in the playoffs. If indeed they do get in the playoffs, that's where you're going to start to lean on Derrick Henry in the playoffs or toward latter part of the season. You're going to start to lean on him more and more. Why? Because you want to slow the game up, and you want to beat up on people. You want to lean on people. You want to lean on Kansas City. Why do you think Jim Harbaugh is sort of constructing this team the way he is? Why did he go out and get Joe Alt when he already had a left tackle? He's trying to solidify that offensive line. Why? Because he want to play a different brand of football. He want to play a brand of football that's going to bully you in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Not necessarily during the season. They're going to throw the ball around the yard during the season. He's going to run it. But come playoff time, when it's cold, y'all beat up from 17 games in the season, that's when they want to lean on you. That's when Derrick Henry starts getting the 20, 25, 30 carries per game in the playoffs. Now we can slow the team down. Now we keep Patrick Mahomes on the bench for, 12, 15 plays. He's not on the field as much as he was, maybe in previous years when you played him. Yeah, just grind the clock out. Had they had that type of back last year in the playoffs, that game was close anyway against Kansas City. They would have been able to slow that game down even more and kept Patrick Mahomes on the bench.
And Lamar kind of pooped his pants a little bit whenever he needed to make big throws in big moments.
He did, but
to
even
take
with
that pressure off,
he's
of
going to
Lamar
have that
to not
later.
have to throw the ball around.
That
the
will
yard.
be a big plot line whenever they, if we assume they'll make the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's the lead story, right?
Exactly.
Will Lamar Jackson be able to play great in the playoffs? But one thing that is really interesting about the Derrick Henry part of this to me is the Ravens, regardless of who the names are, and we mentioned who the other guys are. You've got Keaton Mitchell is the guy that tore his ACL and is coming back. I don't know what he's going to look like at the beginning of the season. But they have a good running game. They have had an effective running, especially when you consider that Lamar Jackson is part of the running game, and he's a guy that routinely rushes for 1,000 yards as a quarterback. That's a really effective running game. And now you put a great running back with that team, I'm really intrigued. And it's going to break people's hearts here, right, if he's a good match there, right? It's going to be hard to watch him in a Ravens uniform running up and down because we've seen it before.
Yeah.
When D-Mase was wearing the purple jersey.
And
Samari Rolle was running around there, and Steve McNair, when they were winning games, like, just twist the knife a little bit.
Because whenever the Titans made the decision to move on from Derrick, I do think a majority of the fan base, not the entire fan base, but I think the majority of the fan base thought, Derrick, thanks for everything that you've done. We know that it's time to move on. We wish you nothing but the best. But it's going to be different if Derrick Henry pops off in Baltimore. He might not feel that way anymore. It might be, the Titans, you idiots.
Oh, it will happen because it's just human nature.
Yeah. Right.
But I'm telling you right now on June, whatever this is, June 12th, that I'm standing by, that this was the right time to get off the ride for better or worse.
And I saw this.
They had to move on.
I saw this clip on 33rdteam.com, which is a bunch of like former NFL GMs, former players. They all kind of give it's just like another news site, football news site. There was a video and the headline was why Derrick Henry will lead the NFL in rushing. I didn't even watch it because I was like, I don't know about all that.
I'm not going to say he's going to lead the NFL in rushing.
When you've got Lamar Jackson running the rock too.
Yeah, it's just, I think people just assume because Lamar Jackson's in the backfield, because he's, truly developed as a passer. Now he's had his games where he needs to step up and play better. We all know that, but he has developed into a damn good passer. Even with that, you saw it. People think all of a sudden like he's gonna have a great season because he has Lamar, and Lamar sort of takes on that running role as well. Well, it doesn't always work that way. I mean, you got to be able to mesh within what the offense is doing. And newsflash to Derrick Henry, they're still going to pay attention to you. I mean, they'd be a fool not to pay attention to him. I'm going to pay attention to him for this reason. Yeah, let Lamar run the football. Let him run it. Because if I hit him enough times, he's going to get hurt. I can't hit you enough times. I'm going to get hurt if I hit you enough times. So we're still going to focus on you and make Lamar run because we get a good shot at him, a good shot on him. Eventually, it's going to wear him down as a quarterback.
We'll continue the conversation coming up next. The Savannah Bananas are coming to Nashville, and you can meet the team's players. Friday from 9 to 11 a.m. at the Dunkin' in Cool Springs at 500 Cool Springs Boulevard for more details.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you have set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. People, you're not alone. I've done it in previous years, and I've been disappointed. So you're not the only person in this boat. But you can go to Cool Springs MD and you can talk to Dr. Lodge and his team, and you can understand because they understand the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss, okay? You can't keep coming at it from the same angle. You got to come at it from a different angle, people. And here is how Cool Springs MD and Dr. Lodge will do it. They got a comprehensive weight loss program, which is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood tests, and supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific for you. Again, it's not about just exercises. It's about your nutrition, and it's about the blood tests and the supplements that they will have for you. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you, people. So that's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We are brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. Indy Ben weighed in on the text line. Our dear friend, Ben in Indianapolis. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Says Tennessee has too many questions on defense. Pass rush, linebacker, free safety, and the health of Snead are all reasons to be skeptical. I do think the communication will be better, which should help some. Look at Indy Ben coming out with a nice thing to say about the Titans. But I will say this, because I poke fun at Indy Ben all the time. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with, inside linebacker, I don't know how that position's going to shake out. Safety, we talked about this yesterday. I expect the Titans to get in on the free agent safety market, but they haven't yet. Pass rush was on my list of things that we started the show with of concern, optimistic, not going to be concerned until training camp. I do have questions about the pass rush. So as much as I make fun of Indy Ben and I poke fun at Indy Ben, I don't disagree with some of those areas of concern for the defense.
Well, they should be areas of concern. The linebacker position should be areas of concern because, they don't have much depth at that position, or outside of Harold Landry, they don't have much production at that position on the roster as it sits right now. So that should be a point of concern, more so the inside backers than Harold Landry, and the outside backers. So it should be a concern. So, along with, secondary for me, because of the depth, not necessarily the three top line guys. I'm not talking about those three guys. I'm talking about the depth of that team in the secondary department, because we know that the teams that they're going to have to face, even within division, they have some damn good receivers. So your secondary has to be able to hold up. They have to stay healthy, because if they don't stay healthy, then you're talking about chinks in armor right there.
Yeah.
Because your depth is not built up yet. So that's probably, so there's always going to be positions of concern with the Titans, at least this year. You hope that as the season goes on, they can sort of, solidify or build up their depth moving forward.
And no doubt at the top, at the cornerback position, they've upgraded.
Yeah,
they're better at that position.
Definitely they are. It's just the back end. And it's like, every team isn't littered with, depth across every position. You got to pick and choose. But the Titans, because of things not working out in prior drafts, they found themselves in a position where their depth is one of the major problems.
So we've got Game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight, and I think Dallas needs to win, obviously, for Dallas to still stay in this series, because if Dallas falls 3-0, the series is over. I also think for the NBA's sake that this series needs to be a little bit more interesting than it is. Like a series extending to 3-0, I think you're going to have a lot of the casual fans. I would probably put myself in a casual NBA fan category. I'm going to start checking out. I think the NBA obviously wants it to go to 7 games for the TV contract, but just the overall interest and buy-in from the fans.
Another thing I thought about in watching the way they have spread out the games in the NBA and NHL finals, I think, and I know player rest is important here, but it really seems drawn out. Do you get a little fatigued, especially the casual fans, like the hardcore fans, the big sports fans? They're going to watch no matter what, but I feel like you might lose some people who are just sort of mentally checked out. It's gone on too long. They moved on to something else. The Mavericks are actually favored tonight, which I'm a little surprised to see. Minus 2.5 on ESPN.
Porzingis may not play, so that's probably one reason.
That's a fact. And I guess
he's got that funky injury.
The big thing is, are Kyrie and Luka going to get a little more help from the other guys hitting the open shot? It was got to the point where they were just letting the other guys, Washington and those guys, just shoot as much as you want. You're not going to make them. At home, where you feel more comfortable, will that be different? It's got to be if Dallas is going to have a chance.
Will it be different? I don't know. If I had to guess, no.
No?
I think
not
it
even
will
at home.
be. But I like the way they've spread this out, because if it goes quickly, sports is over with.
That's true.
So there you go.
We are in the Sahara.
Exactly.
Until training camp. That is going to do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Stillman & Company is up next.
Be love and loving your people. Happy Wednesday and peace.